and welcome to In-Game Chat for Saturday, January 11th, 2014. This is Season 8, Episode 2. I'm Scott.
I'm James.
And I'm RJ.
And welcome to the show. If you'd like to get in touch with us, our phone number is 334-272-9228. You can find us on Twitter at In-Game Chat, as well as over on Facebook. You can email us, everyone, at ingamechat.net, and we're streaming the cam feed right now through Twitch. You can check us out there and watch us, as well as join in the chat room live while we broadcast. Hello, everybody in the chat room. Glad to see it starting to fill up there. Welcome to the show. It is episode 2. Obviously, last week we had a full house, and today we have a less than that house at the moment. But we're thinking, we know Matt will be back next week, and Dennis probably will be back next week. Up in the air on him. But anyway, welcome to the show. Glad you're here. Coming up in the second hour of the show, we've got an interview that we did with Barking Mouse Studios. That is Jim Fleming and Danielle Swank. They have a puzzle game that is out on iOS right now. It is called Lost Toys. It released this week. I believe it is available for $3.99, I think is the price for it. It is a puzzle game, and we'll be talking with them in the second hour, so stick around for that. Right now, in this first segment, though, we're going to touch on the Steam machines. We had a lot of announcements out of CES, and Steam machines and the PlayStation Now, those were two of the big ones for us as far as gaming is concerned, and we'll hit the Steam machine aspect of it first. Steam machines are PC boxes with, from what I understand, SteamOS. Linux is the operating system, but SteamOS on it. That's how SteamOS runs, I guess.
It's just a distro. Yeah, it's a distro. It's a Linux distro. And
the lowest of these is $500, which is the entry point to an Xbox One.
They've announced how many? 13 partners.
13 partners.
13 named partners currently, and each one of them had something to show of the machine that they had planned.
A design box,
Although not nearly as much information on the specs of each individual machine as I would have wanted. Several of the vendors didn't really have anything to say about what they were putting in it. They showed a box.
And some of them didn't have anything to say about the price that they were charging.
Right, which isn't, that's good to know, I suppose, who's actually going to be involved in this. But I would like to have known a little bit more. But yeah, we do know that 500 on the very low end. I think a lot of people were hoping to see 400.
Yeah.
Just a little bit lower. We all understand that as you drop the price, then you are necessarily dropping the specifications of it, making it a weaker machine in the process. So it's really, really difficult. It's difficult to say right now if you actually could beat one of these cheaper machines in terms of performance building it yourself. If you are the type of PC gamer who builds your own machine, assembles your own machine by buying all of your own parts, you can usually get much better parts, much more generally expensive parts, and put together kind of a nicer machine at a more affordable rate.
Yeah,
because you're not paying somebody else to do the assembly, and then
you're not paying somebody else to do the assembly. You're also not paying for the form factor that they're able to fit these things into,
which isn't terrible.
It's not.
One of the key target, I guess, design points of the Steam machine is that it is meant for the living room. The living room is if you are. If you want to be really crass, if you don't really feel like being generous where this entire SteamOS and Steam machines thing is concerned, living room sounds very much like TV. No, we've got an idea. We have an idea, and this is the idea, and we are pushing this idea, and this idea is the dominant idea for, it's the dominant goal for what we want to do. Obviously, they feel fine with people playing on normal PCs. They quote themselves specifically saying 65 million users on Steam. That's 65 million people with Steam installed. That's a lot. And they want some portion of that, apparently, to be moving into the living room. And that's all well and good, but they're also targeting people who, for whatever reason, don't want to build a PC on their own. They can't build a PC on their own. Maybe they feel weird about sitting at a desk. I don't know. There's been 100 different arguments about why the Steam machines maybe don't make sense to an awful lot of people.
Yeah.
But regardless, that form factor is extremely important to them. None of them are the types of things that are the bulky boxes that you're used to putting next to a desk or under a desk or hiding out of sight. They are all meant to look either cute or sleek or sexy or
looks like something you'd stick in your living room.
Or for it to disappear entirely. Yeah. Half of them look like cubes. I mean, half of them look like a subwoofer or something that you could stick in the corner and ignore.
Or a cable box.
Which I'm certainly fine with that, but that isn't anything new. They didn't do that. That stuff has been around.
Oh, yeah, it has, yeah.
You can easily build a micro ATX gaming PC and put it in a case that can be easily found online for a reasonable price that makes it fit in with the rest of your system. So that's, they brought nothing new there, but it's definitely a part of what they want done. And I don't especially like any of the designs. Did anything that they show appeal to you visually at all?
No. I especially did not like the ones that have the giant Steam logo emblazoned or impressed upon the box and everything else. I thought, no, I don't want that. It's same reason I don't have a giant PlayStation or Xbox logo. I mean, you do have that little tiny thing. That's fine, whatever, for your Xbox when it lights up. That lets you know it's on. But I don't know. It's no, none of them appealed to me, mainly because I didn't even think of the form factor while I'm looking at them. I didn't look at that and think I'm pretty. I looked at that or think that it's pretty. I looked at that and said, let me look at the specs when they had them listed. Let me look at the price when it had it listed. I want to go through these and see where the prices are. And I found the $500 one, and I didn't look at it and think, what's that going to look like? I looked at it and thought, why would I buy that for $500?
Right.
And this is only coming from me. I really wasn't putting myself in the shoes of, I guess, somebody who that would appeal to.
I think one of the problems, and we've come around to this over and over and over again. I know both sides sound a bit like a broken record. There are those of us, and I count myself among them, who can't quite figure out who the Steam machine is for. There are things about
the
it.
Demand was, to be honest myself.
What's
I
that?
mean, why would they get a sense that there was a demand for something like this to begin with?
And I don't know. This leads to something else about Valve. They have very strange communication issues. It's really difficult to figure out why exactly Valve does what they do. They don't communicate an awful lot. They're not dismissive exactly, but they have an institutional fear of communication, and it really is an institutional fear. But there is a question about whether or not the demand was already there, whether or not they found a demand and decided to push into it, or whether they're actually trying to put their weight behind an initiative and create a market. And the vast majority of people who disagree, I don't want to say they disagree. Obviously, Valve can do whatever they want to do. But there are many people, I am one of them, who thinks that Valve's very odd development and management structure might not lend itself to working on as many projects simultaneously as possible. And there are other things, and I'm not talking about Half-Life here. I am actually talking about the Steam platform, that I would rather see that more directly improved. And so when you see them pushing this whole thing, it's hard not to take them wrong when in an interview they'll be asked, like, who's the market for this? Well, we've got 65 million users on Steam, and those guys want to go into the living room and play their games from their PC on their living room couch and look at their TV. Those guys want to do that. Well, I'm one of those guys, and I don't want to do that. I don't have any interest in doing that. And if I did, I could go buy an HDMI cable, a wireless mouse and keyboard, and do it myself. It's already fine.
Let me tell you, I played some on the couch. Every other week, I play on my PC from the couch,
right,
onto a single screen. By the way, a single TV screen. I don't like it. If I want to stream, and this isn't for everybody, but if I want to stream, I can't see the chat room. If I want to,
you can't have second screen right next.
I just
to you.
cannot have a second screen
open.
right next. The browser, if it's open, needs to be magnified quite a lot in order for me to read anything, and so it's. I use it for what I use it for, which is because, I'm in the middle of a game or whatever, and I want to continue playing my game. Witcher, Assassin's Creed, whatever. It's all on PC, and I carry that with me. But for anything else, I can't do it. And I don't even use big picture mode when I'm playing. I just use the regular thing and launch the game. And even then, like I said, any kind of text heavy game, is
It's still going to be a problem.
is a little tough.
If the DPI isn't adjusted specifically for
I
the
point
TV.
to Gone Home
Okay.
being
Yeah,
a
you
text
have
heavy
it-
game.
Not only text heavy, but a lot of handwritten or typewritten things.
Yeah,
A lot of
and
things
then-
that are not just
yeah.
computer text, but are things that are designed to be.
And sat down and played. What did I play? Oh, Kentucky Route Zero.
Mhm.
That is a text. That is text. There is no dialogue in there. I mean, there's text, but there's no spoken word. It's all in text. And so that's kind of an issue. If I was sitting any further back, it would be. But as
Right,
it is
and
now,
there's-
I just have to sit on the edge of the couch to be
No,
able
no,
to
sure,
really
and
read
there's
it.
always an answer. I mean, the chat room points out you could have a tablet or laptop next to you. Yes, obviously you can, but in terms of just you play your games very much the way I play mine. You have two screens. You always have one screen dedicated to your game, the other screen dedicated to browsers, chat windows, streaming software, Mumble, TeamSpeak, Ventrilo, whatever it is. Everything else goes over there, and it makes it a much greater. In my opinion, that is the strength of PC gaming: the ability to multitask and the ability to do so many different things at once. And also, I don't have any problem with any of what they're trying to do. I certainly don't disagree with the fact that some people may approach PC gaming from a different point of view than we do. They may not actually go out of their way to create a comfortable space around the PC, that there is still some idea that the PC itself is a work tool
Yeah.
that is simply being leveraged. Its strengths are being leveraged to play video games, but I don't treat mine that way at all. Mine is very much the opposite. So my gaming setup is quite comfortable. It's not lush or lavish, but I am comfortable there. I have no problem sitting on a couch and playing on a TV. I have played Assassin's Creed 4 that way. It has been super enjoyable for me. It's perfectly fine. I just feel like it just begs the question, like who really is asking for this? What portion of your 65 million customers are asking for this? What portion of people you wish were your customers do you think are asking for this? Because most of them...
They had to have done research on this, right?
I'm certain that they did, but honestly, if you are that guy who doesn't want a gaming PC, doesn't want the complexity of a gaming PC, and if you don't want the complexity of... Well, I shouldn't say if you don't want the complexity of Windows, you don't want the complexity of Linux, since the whole point is to simplify it for the user. But by probably also neutering it significantly. But I'll leave that aside. If you are someone who simply wants to play enjoyable games on a couch in front of a big TV, there are other answers. There have been answers for an entire generation or two, a human generation.
Yeah.
And they are very cheap compared to the very cheapest of all of the Steam machines. So if it was just a question of, I want to be playing something fun in a comfortable space, I can. I got a PS4, or I can go buy an Xbox One, or one of the older systems, or something like that, if it's just I want to play something more comfortable. If they're saying, I want to play my library of PC games comfortably on the couch, on the big TV, that's not possible either. Because SteamOS simply isn't going to support a large enough percentage of my library.
Linux only.
Yes, Linux only. They have a huge initiative right now to try to get native support for more games under Linux. I appreciate that. I think that's actually good, and it's going to lead to better things for everyone. But I think we're talking about, if it's even possible, which it may not be, to get a significant number of developers to use whatever tools they generate to make this supposedly easier. Why bother? They've already spent ages building games for the PC. I don't expect them to just come along and be super happy about wanting to put it on Linux.
I guess
it's not something I expect.
Naveed brings up a good point. It was kind of what I was getting at there when I was like, they did their research on this. I guess I'm not looking at Valve saying they did their research on this. Valve's offering the OS, Valve's making a controller. It's these other third parties that are making the machines themselves. So are these third parties prevalent to some information about, hey, here's the demand for this, we want to hop on this gravy train?
Well, a lot of these third parties are already making custom-built PCs.
That's true. So
which was another point to the entire equation. If you wanted a PC that would look sleek and slick in your living room and disappear into your entertainment system, that's been possible for years. If you wanted a PC but just couldn't be bothered to learn about it or keep up with specifics and go through the problems and the worry and the stress, which I've built dozens, and there is always,
There's always
worry
stress.
and stress, and there is always
Yeah.
a problem. And yeah, I can see paying a bit of a premium to have somebody else put it together, build it nicely, and you don't have to worry about that. It is merely the PC you have. That's great. Also possible for years and years and years now. So that's fine. I don't see a particular problem in that. So these guys, most of them are already doing this.
So this really isn't hurting them at all to kind of
No.
to-
It's just them focusing in on a design spec that looks good in the living room.
Yeah.
Pre-built multimedia PC. That's it.
You can
Or
choose-
make it look like one.
You
rather.
can choose from our Windows
So-
lines of PCs, or you can
Right.
choose from our Linux-based Steam boxes.
And again,
you know,
I understand if you're worried about the limitations of Linux, being able to play all of those games in your living room on this platform.
I'm curious.
Oh, I'm just going to boot in. I'm going to dual boot into Windows.
Yeah,
all right, which is fine. But again,
that's absurd.
a pre-built PC already 100% satisfies every one of these things.
I know.
I am terribly interested in whatever it is, whatever the long game is with SteamOS. Very interested in it. I like it. And I do believe them when they say that they are not competing with the console market. They are trying to shore up the PC market. They're crazy like a fox in a lot of ways. So I try to trust them as best I can with what little we know about them.
Mm-hmm.
But so SteamOS, it makes sense to me. That initiative is fully good, costs the rest of us nothing, and will pay dividends. It already has, as a matter of fact. A lot of the better things they've done with the family sharing stuff,
Yeah.
and a lot of the working towards fixing some of the strange issues. Probably, Jeremy brought this point up to me as we were discussing this over the week. Probably some directed focus on fixing offline mode, which has always been a bit of a thorn in the side of people, that it doesn't work really correctly. But it's kind of going to need to work a little bit better on the console side. So we can hope that this initiative is going to lead to fixes for things that we're concerned about in other places. But I don't really know. SteamOS is great. The controller looks great to me. Or
Yeah.
it looks great. I'm super, super interested in playing with it on my PC.
I mean, I've seen some of those demos of people playing certain games with it, and it looks quite natural.
It does.
And very, almost exactly what we kind of thought it would be. How it implements, the best one that I saw, or the best one that I was curious to see, was the Civ 5 demo,
Yeah.
because that is so mouse heavy.
It's,
it really did okay,
the proof of the pudding's in the eating, man.
I
I
know.
don't pay attention to the video. I looked at the controller, thought about the ages I've spent trying to figure out what the perfect controller would be for me. It looks very much like that. I understand what they're driving after technologically. I will not pay any attention to them telling me how awesome it is based on internal testing, because I'm sorry. You have something to sell me, and that's the point at which it becomes marketing. But I'm nonetheless super interested. I just need to use it.
Yeah.
And I can't know a thing until I use it. But I am interested in that. I am interested in SteamOS. Maybe if we're saying that the Steam machine itself is just the anchor, just the thing that allows us to tie this entire concept together and deliver it to people. And so it just doesn't sound like a PC, so that they can get out from under the idea of PC gaming is for the glorious PC master race, that it is for dweebs who don't mind assembling all their own hardware. Like, you can stop looking at us all like crazy-haired madmen with parts strewn all over the place, even though kind of, depending. That's what I am professionally.
It's great. It's always fun.
But
to
you
be
know what I
surrounded
mean?
by
They're
that, yeah.
trying. It's a branding thing,
I know.
and I get that. But the machine itself is the one thing that I can't help but look at it and think, what are you doing? What are you doing? I know that you can't have Windows on this. I know that you can't, but it just the whole thing seems so absurd to me.
We mentioned the lowest price being the $500 entry point.
And what's the highest end?
$6,000, $6,000 for the highest end. RJ is shaking his head. You guys cannot. You can see that when you're watching it. But you
I
can't,
mean,
see
I
that on
have
the radio.
no problem imagining how you can blow $6,000 on a PC. It's actually not terribly hard, but I mean, when some of the highest end, the best high-end parts for PCs, some of the high-end GPUs cost $1,000 a piece. And there are people who build machines to run 3 of them.
Yeah.
You're already halfway there. And yes, I think it's as ridiculous as most other people do.
Grab your 4K monitor
Yeah.
and a couple other things, and you're very close to $6,000.
Except for the Steam machine isn't coming with a 4K
It doesn't come with a monitor.
They managed to squeeze 4K all the way into just the box itself. So, again, I don't care. I don't think this is necessarily drawing attention or money away from anything else.
Well, it's not. I mean, Naveed says, if this completely flops, Valve will lick its wounds and it'll fizzle out. Steam boxes, not the OS. If it gets a moderate traction, Valve has a foot in the door in being able to get away from Windows and getting more devs on board to porting games for Steam OS.
I don't disagree with that. I think we have to take a very, very, very realistic view of the prospects of getting enough. Look, I know that right now there's 200 some odd games available for Linux on Steam, but most of them are smaller, simpler games. A lot of them are games that you could just play on your tablet. Several of them are very old, and that's fine. They are very good games, but maintaining a current library and having a trustworthy outlook for what is actually going to come to your system, that's a big deal. And if you really want to invest in a platform and you are a gamer, and that is key here. These are designed to play games. Yes, they may add streaming functionality for other media, TV, music, movies, stuff like that, and that's fine. But this is a game machine. And I don't know. I know it's a good thought. I know it is a good idea, but there isn't a magic spell. There isn't. Getting enough support on Linux from the development community, regardless of whatever tool sets Valve is able to conjure into existence, is a tough sell. And the likelihood of it, I don't think is particularly good. I don't feel that kind of in the zeitgeist of, the energy of the industry out there. It doesn't seem that way. So, and I don't even mean to bag all over Valve on this. They're doing something. I'm not trying to cut them off at the knees just because they're making a break from the pack and doing something different. It's not necessarily that. I just cannot necessarily get my mind around
There's
it.
confusion. Well, not confusion so much.
And they are
as
not
just
good communicators.
Right. Yeah, you talked about that. It's just, we talked about that on the way up to the studio here today. It's like, I can't. I'm sure there's an audience for this. Maybe. I don't know, man.
There is a non-zero number of people that are going to definitely end
There
this.
is. And I'd love to talk to one of those people who want that. And I'd like to find out what their reason is. What is it? Is it...
Talk to them when they aren't in a defensive position as well.
Yeah. Just, I would love to just, Joe Gamer, who's decided to, these Steam boxes is perfect for what I need.
All right, so what do you need?
What do you need? Yeah, that's
tell
what I
me,
want to
Tell
find
me
out.
what shape your need is so that I can understand why the Steam machine fills it so well.
Yeah.
And it could be more elusive than that, because I would say to
It
that
could
guy,
be something I'm not thinking of,
Yeah.
obviously, because we can't wrap our heads around this. And if we're in the position of somebody who wants this, it's likely they're seeing something we're not.
or that they aren't seeing something that
we
do.
are. Yeah.
I understand. It's perfectly fine. I don't even suggest to people that they should build their own PCs anymore. I really, if you really want to do that, I can help you if you're a friend that is in my immediate, real life circle and I can actually help you and that's what you want to do, then I'm glad to do that. But if it's just a random person who has no support or help from around them and they really don't feel like doing it, by all means, man, go to Alienware, go to Falcon Northwest, go to wherever in the world you want to go. That's perfectly fine. I think that's a very, very good way to go. So if you've got a hole in your life that you think a Steam machine might fill, have you considered this other thing? Okay, if you have and you don't want that, then why this? Is it because you trust Valve and Steam? Seems quite strange to me, if you're not even already a PC gamer, that you would have any sort of mental relationship with the idea of what Valve is.
Lavo says, I don't think Windows is the problem, it's DirectX. The engines build against DirectX, and if the tools weren't tied to DirectX, then porting them is less complicated.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I certainly agree. I just don't know if any of this is enough to make the overall difference. It's a huge question, and it's this is not a short-term problem. It is a long-term problem.
Yeah, in other Steam-related news, I suppose, or Valve-related, whatever you want to call it, They greenlit 50 more games. Windforge, of course, who we talked about Snowed In Studios. We had them on the show. That was one of the games that they green lighted through, so that was great to hear. Of course, they hit their Kickstarter goal as well, so they got funded. And the other one is the Steam database leak showed features for Killing Floor 2, Battle Block Theater, but the big one was Batman Arkham Origins Blackgate HD, which is a Vita-only title.
Right.
And we saw Liberation
Liberation,
a Vita-only title, making it over to
that's right.
a PC port. And so some of these things are starting to make me second-guess any kind of Vita purchases that I may make, unless, of course, it's a Sony Studios, a Sony first party.
A purchase that you would make because it's Vita exclusive.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, Liberation was a Vita exclusive.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You're imagining it losing that exclusivity, jumping over to the PC platform. Because the definition of exclusivity for any particular handheld or console has a tendency to just be within the console world.
Yeah.
We still talk about Titanfall as being an Xbox exclusive, and it's like, well, it's going to the PC.
Mm-hmm.
So they have to amend themselves and say, well, Microsoft platforms.
We should talk about Titanfall, and
you
we will.
know what we mean when we say it's Xbox exclusive.
Right, yeah. It's interesting. Obviously, I have Tearaway on the Vita. That is a Media Molecule, which is a Sony-owned studio that'll stay on Vita. As far as I can tell, that'll remain there. And so that won't make it over. But anything else that I might consider, because I was considering Blackgate when it was on sale, but now that it's possibly having an HD, these are rumors. It kind of makes me second guess that. Anyway, we've got to take a break, and when we come back, we got a couple other things on the list to talk about. You mentioned Titanfall. We mentioned CES. We've got those two things to talk about. PlayStation Now, the streaming service, where you can play a PlayStation game on any of your PlayStation devices, Sony devices, the TVs, and then it'll spread out from there from what you can play those games on. Interesting developments out of CES and just in general out of the world of gaming this week. And we'll have more of that coming up in just a minute on In-Game Chat. We'll be right back. Welcome back to In-Game Chats. We had a question about some music in a previous episode, so I'm going to try and remember to start doing this, but the music that we went into break with obviously was Halo. The music coming out of break, that right there is from Bionic Commando Rearmed. So we'll try and remember to give you the music titles going in and out of a break, in case you get curious about what they are, because when they asked the question, I could not remember what it was. I went back and I listened to it. I was like, man, I don't know. They're all in this weird thing that rotates between them, and so the order is random, so there's no way I could go back and figure out which one it was at the certain time. So real quick, going to go to the phones. Lavos called in, and thank you for calling in, Lavos.
Not a problem. Glad to do it. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Great. Love having those. Hey, so did you have a comment about the Steam machines, or?
I just a kind of a reiteration of what I was speaking to on the IRC, but when I look and see Microsoft's contested control of the DirectX and the platform, I think that's the most scary part. I think that's what the kind of long play of this is with Valve and Unity and a lot of the movement towards Linux in the first place.
Well, and it's specifically, I guess, Gabe's fear and whether or not we share that. And I suppose it's fair to say that we do share that fear. I mean, the launching of Windows 8, the possibilities of things being locked into the Windows 8 store was all very, very bad. And I really feel the idea behind SteamOS, and I really do like the idea of not having the Windows tax anymore, and just that simple thing, not having to pay for their software to run my games on their platform. I don't know, is there enough fear in the development community? I think that's a big question. How do we incentivize developers to spend their time and money? How do we get them behind? How do you rally them, I suppose?
I think they're more interested in having a engine and tools that are easily portable to different platforms without them having to do work. I mean, the mobile space is incredibly important, and with engines like Unity that can provide your game on every platform there is with no effort from you, that's much more appealing. I think this last generation is hurting. Well, we're feeling the pain of the last generation because of its reliance on the Unreal Engine.
Yes, I think that's absolutely true.
If we move to something more like Unity, where it doesn't matter where it's a Windows or not, all the tools support it directly, we won't have a problem. I think 5 years from now, when we look back to this and we see this was a silly thing. We shouldn't even worry about this. This is why aren't all games on all platforms? It's silly. It's a joke. It's just that the chips fell and the Unreal Engine won, and we've been feeling all the pain ever since.
Well, I would very, very much vote for a future where that works. And I think even amongst the people that are arguing over it or feel a little bit of stress about it, I mean, anytime you feel like your current position, if you're at all happy with it, is going to change, that's a little bit worrisome. Maybe they're not, maybe you're going to lose out somehow in the transition. Even if you can't put your finger on exactly how you feel you're going to lose. But in a future, yes, where everything simply moves easily to every single platform is the ideal future. And I believe in that vision. I just feel like everything between where I stand now and that future is really murky and scary. And this industry does very odd things when it's in moments of transition. So
I agree. I believe that we can draw some parallels to something we've done just recently as a society. We've moved to the browser being the primary way of interfacing with the computer. That was also a really messy transition with Netscape and
yes,
export and
actually.
that. Like I'm in software development. I make web pages. People aren't building native apps for Windows and stuff anymore.
Mm-hmm.
They're building web pages because that already is ported on platform, and they're leaving the work to people like Google and WebKit to do the work for them. The whole getting to work on all the platforms thing. I think there's parallels there, and I think and stuff to learn because I don't think even that's there yet for all our uses.
Right. Well, either way, I'm behind that idea. But the Steam machine things is an entirely different question.
I mean, do you see do you understand what we're saying where we can't really wrap our head around who's going to want this type of thing, like a consumer who would want this? I mean, do you know? I mean,
right, because to me it seems like marketing, right? Like Steam machine. Oh, Steam's great. That sounds great, but if you already know that Steam's great, you've already bought into the PC master race.
Yeah, that's what I was saying over the break.
You don't need to be sold on it. It's.
How do you know? How can you if you're somebody who doesn't play PC games, you only play console games, and you're interested in Steam machines because Steam is so awesome, well, how do you, if you know that, you're probably already one of the 65 million people that uses Steam.
Right.
So it's, I don't know. It is a huge question. It is weird. I think they obviously, they don't owe us anything.
Right.
They don't owe us anything. But it's really, really tough to just like shut up about it and trust them. I don't do that very easily.
Right. Well, at least we got to talk about something other than big TVs at CES. That's always helpful.
Yeah, really. Thanks for the call, Levis. We appreciate it.
No, thanks. Thank you for the show.
See you in the chat room.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye. And if you'd like to call in, of course, 334-272-9228 is the number to get in touch with us and, throw in your opinion on things like that. And moving on to the other CES announcement, which was PlayStation Now, which is... I think it's an awesome idea.
No, PlayStation Now, yes, but that's Gaikai.
Yes, it is.
That's Gaikai. Gaikai has been kind of floating around out there in the ether for the longest time, and we've all been wondering exactly where it was going to land and in what form it would return to the world.
And I was actually surprised. I did not expect it out of CES, honestly.
No, maybe GDC would have been a better time. They had specifically said to expect announcements, like nowish, early 2014, early next year or something.
First week of early,
which actually, and we didn't necessarily see it doing what we imagine it'll do. And for anybody that does not know, Gaikai was it was a streaming game service like OnLive, where the games are actually being run on machines, on servers. And well, they're not; they're gaming machines, but they're being run on farms essentially. In a facility, and you play the game remotely over the internet. And the technology is actually fairly good. We horsed around with the OnLive stuff you and I did a number of occasions, and it's really fun, and it offers...
It works a lot better than we ever thought it would.
It is a lot better than you would actually think.
Because a lot of people... Look, the threads that I read about, this is Gaikai, and this is what it is, a lot of what I read was like, man, this is going to fail. It's why OnLive doesn't work. And I was like, you know what? OnLive has its problems.
It does have its problems.
It's not because of the latency.
Yeah, it actually kind of works. It kind of works. Yeah. And that it kind of works at the point that we were playing it, which was like 2 years ago.
Yeah.
There is room for improvement, but the rate of improvement is likely to be pretty high. But anyway, Sony snatched up Gaikai, going on like 3-4 years now? Mm-hmm. Years ago, rather. And we have been wondering, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Is this going to be your answer to backward compatibility? Right? We no longer have backward compatibility on the PS4 or to whatever degree on the PS3 to play older titles. Is this how you're going to do it? You don't worry about compatibility because the games are going to be running, in the cloud, and you're going to be able to stream them. Is that your idea? It's got to be your idea. Why else would you buy this? So this is essentially what they had intended, and Gaikai is now PlayStation Now.
Yeah,
but what I'm sorry, you were saying at the outro last, you were saying something about on Sony devices. This isn't just limited to their game machines?
It is not limited to their game machines. You'll get it, I believe the first machines that are going to see this tech is PS3s and Vitas. PlayStation Vitas and PS3s will see this first. Or I could be confused. Regardless, whatever the case, it is coming to the PS3 as like an app. It's coming to the PS4 as an app. It's coming to the Vita as an app. And it'll come to all Sony Bravia TVs, I think, this year.
That's weird to me.
Isn't it? That you do not need, and essentially once they're done with that, once they get this wrapped up, they will span from there and go to non-Sony branded devices. You look at the NVIDIA Shield, any number of other TVs. There's Sony Blu-ray players that'll have the app on it, so that you can essentially play PlayStation games all the way back from PlayStation 1 all the way up to PlayStation 4. I think you'll see the 4 stuff that cuts into their console sales if they start streaming that sort of thing.
Yes, it does.
But
and I think you can expect a very well-tended garden of titles to pick from. I think it'll be a really curated list. I don't think if you just say that one weird game that I loved on PS1 and have never been able to find a copy of again and isn't available online currently, I can't wait to play that. I think here we go again. Manage your expectations. Mm-hmm. I think we absolutely need to manage our expectations. And not just because you don't want to make assumptions ahead of time about what it's going to be. Don't sell yourself on the idea before we actually know what it is. Obviously, telling this to myself as well, because we don't know price. We don't know how it's going to work subscription-wise. We don't know what's going to be available with the subscription. They also said there's going to be a rental type service
Right,
tied into it.
there's a way you can just rent game by game, or you
Right.
can do the subscription plan,
which allows
is
you to
the
access pretty much everything.
all you can eat situation.
which is fantastic. I mean, these are the ideas that we were hoping for. If we're going to suffer media conglomerates in the gaming sphere, if we're going to suffer the loss of physical media, if we're going to suffer the advancement and the infinite complexities added to DRM, have to play on people's inside their walled gardens and on their closed platforms. If that's what we're going to be forced to do, then at the very least we need to get something out of it. And this is the sort of thing you want to see. You want to see the option to say, well, yes, you're in the world that you're in, and like it or not, that's okay, but we offer you this type of thing. It's going to be a hard sell to an awful lot of people, because there are an awful lot of people who don't want to add either another subscription service to their life or a subscription service at all. There are people who are very much opposed to that idea.
Yeah, it'll initially roll out on PS3 and PS4 systems, then it'll go to the Vita, and then to the Bravia TVs, and then plans to expand to other internet-capable devices, is what it said. And then, of course, how do you play this? Well, a DualShock 3 is required for any of the platforms except for the PS4 and the Vita.
Sure, that makes absolute sense.
So you will need a DualShock 3, which is fine if your entry to investment is the subscription plan, and
they're available.
Yeah,
there
the
are lots
DS3,
of them out there.
you'll be fine.
Yeah,
And it is an amazing. It opens up a world of opportunity, I guess, for anybody who couldn't afford the systems or who never actually played I mean, I don't know. Can you still go out? You can't still buy a PlayStation 1 other than eBay.
oh,
maybe.
you can. They're not precious. You can find them. You can absolutely find them. The thing that I hope for, the thing I'm going to get my own hopes, all whipped up over, that may or may not actually come true. And the reason that I like this idea, in a way, is that I hope to see versions of these things that are more compatible with modern displays. I don't mind the 4x3. I mean, there's an enormous number of games from the PS1 and the PS2 era that you simply can't make them 16:10 or 16:9. You can't make them widescreen. You cannot force them to be something that they were never made to be, but you can make them look a little bit nicer. You can probably clean up their menus a little bit and just make the experience an overall much better experience. I in the past would have argued against the idea of playing anything previous to the HD revolution in gaming, but it's not. I've changed my mind an awful lot on that, because I've gone out of my way to watch people streaming and playing older games, and play a few of the older games myself. And in general, I think there's a lot back there. There are huge libraries of games that a lot of people now, because they are old enough, the PS2 era itself is old enough, that there are a lot of younger gamers, teens and 20s now, who weren't playing video games then, who were not born then. Well, I mean, it's the truth.
I know.
It's true. Yeah.
Just funny to think about. But I mean, if this, and God, I hope this succeeds, because I do want to see other people follow. I honestly want Nintendo to follow. I really want Nintendo to do this, if only for the fact that I don't have to, pull out my GameCube anymore and put in those games or any of the others. I mean,
we want Nintendo to do a lot of things,
I know.
Scott. This isn't a thing that's going to happen. They even had the concept built into the previous generation of hardware, and they just couldn't be bothered to do anything about it. So you need to let that one go. I'm telling you right now, don't hold on to that thought.
There is no pricing yet for PlayStation Now, or what it's going to entail,
Right.
but
And whether it will be, and to what degree it will be, tied into PS Plus, right? Because Sony seems to be making an effort over the past several years to, particularly over the last year and a half, to really tie in all of their weird, disparate services under one account-based type of umbrella. So I should be able to get something. There should be a price that I can pay for all access PS Now and all access PS Plus, All of that.
Yeah.
What's that price? What's the whole, you know?
Yeah, if I got PS Plus, what you going to do to benefit me if I get PlayStation Now?
Right. And do you get a discount for buying the two of them together or something like that? You know, or if you have PS Plus, you can access such and such by default, like a small portion maybe is always going to be free to PS Plus subscribers as well. I don't know. They need to kind of answer that stuff because it seems a little bit messy.
Yeah.
You know?
And this is probably something that we're going to. This will be one of their big things for E3 this year, I think. Will be
No, without a doubt.
live on stage
Absolutely.
demos
Yeah.
of this being done, and I think it's something that will roll out. Well, no, this is.
They're going
into beta for this
They
later
said
this
that
month.
they're going to beta at the end of this month. I don't know what that means. Is this
Yeah.
going to be some kind of closed invite-only beta? Is it going to be a buy-in beta? Is it beta in the sense that, look, we're just going to release it to everybody and you guys are just going to play it on a limited basis and see how it works? They haven't given us any details of that either. So I don't know. But if you are just another person out there in the world, I mean, if you want to wait for it to show up on your TV, if you have a Sony TV, which you probably don't because they haven't been doing a terribly good job of selling TVs.
Yeah.
But if you're thinking about it, if you're really starting to think about why a PS4, you know, if you haven't already walked past the Steam machine and your desire to find something to play in the living room, right, and you just want that thing, this could theoretically kill it for them. And this is incredibly good. If the price is right, if the library is sufficient, and if the performance is what it needs to be, you're the guy. You walk into the boutique store or the Best Buy and say, like, you know, what do I get if I buy this? That's a great answer. That's something great to hear. Everything Sony's ever made, essentially,
know.
sort of.
Yeah.
This is never going to happen, but.
Well, it's just one of those things that it's another bullet point to put on the back of your box or a bullet point to put on the selling of your console against the other
Right.
guys. Is that with our console, you now have access to.
For $400 plus $50 a year plus maybe, I don't know, whatever else. I mean, this is what for $500.
Yeah, and you know it's going to be packed in the first month free with
Yeah,
your
probably.
purchase of the console.
It's an interesting idea, and there's a lot of good reasons to think about it. Then it's like you can play it on any of this old stuff, and if you still have a PS3 and haven't decided to upgrade, here you go. This is an additional reason for you to still stay active in there.
It was amazing seeing those demos of Last of Us being played on a Vita. Not
saying-
really.
I've had
regardless
it,
of if I want to play it on a Vita.
yeah, sure. I haven't had it for an awful long time yet, but it's a plucky little device.
I was going to
man.
say, little guy can
It's
do
got
some
man.
stuff.
It's no slouch. I'm not super happy about my giant beast hands
Yeah.
and everything on. I need like some of them clippy-on bits, but man, I in my head I can think about The Last of Us running on a Vita, and I'm like, yeah, makes perfect sense to me. Perfect sense to me.
Shadow
It-
of the Colossus.
Yeah, come on, get out of here.
I know.
I see, because I just can't bring myself to drag out an older system anymore. There's nothing wrong with it. There's no problem. I am not.
I do it all the time.
I am
actually.
right, and I'm not attacking the idea, but it doesn't suit my style, and that's just the fact of the matter.
Look, you were over at my house when I was hooking up my PS4.
Yeah.
And I had to get you to crawl back there to unplug and do whatever.
Right.
If I'm to pull out a new system now, guess what? I can't hook that thing up to my TV because
And
those
it's
old
going to
systems
look-
don't have HDMI ports.
Like poo on your TV.
It doesn't. I'm not worried about the poo looking. I'm worried about
Why?
the-
That's a legitimate thing.
I'm just starting with connecting the thing up.
You're never going to get to the fact that it looks like poo because you don't want to go through the process
Connecting
of actually,
it up.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it's one thing when HDMI is so universal that it's just unplug your old one, leave the cord plugged in, and plug it into your new one.
Right.
You couldn't do that with the RCA jacks that you used to
No,
have.
sure. No, it's
Because the port they plugged into the back of the thing was all tailored to that particular system. You
Right.
know, Nintendo didn't keep it going through the iterations of their machine. You had to crawl back there and do all that. That's one of my first world problems.
Yeah.
Is managing that, and then you can move into the hey, it looks like poo, but whatever. I can't even bring myself to hook it up.
I understand it perfectly, and if we can recognize that a lot of us for a lot of us, that's a barrier to entry. It's not too hard. It's not impossible. In the same way, it's not hard or impossible to build a PC. I just want to buy one pre-built. This is me buying a pre-built PC.
Yeah, really.
Right? It's the same psychological thing. I can't be bothered to do this other thing. But man, if I can just go through a service,
I want to ask you
Lovely.
about. I wanted to ask you about maybe do a little speculation here, but it sounds like a Netflix or a GameFly service.
Yeah.
And how much are those a month? I know Netflix is like $8.
Netflix
$8 a month.
is like $7 something.
if
yeah.
you get
Yeah.
the streaming only.
Yeah, just
Yeah, you
streaming
can go
only.
a little bit cheaper.
And GameFly, depending on how many titles you get, it's like
It's per
it
title.
varies.
It's per title.
What's the
And
lowest on that? 20 or less?
It's like I
15?
think it's like a single game is like 15 or 16,
15?
something like
So
that.
you think it maybe it's just speculate. Maybe it'll fall in somewhere in that price range. Maybe
It depends on what they honestly. It depends on what they have to offer. Every other service has weaknesses. Netflix, for example. I mean, this is a little bit broader speculation, but you have to look at what Netflix is actually able to offer in terms of its selection, the deals they have to manage with all of the different content owners and content providers. If they went, because there's always the argument of, if Netflix had a massively increased library, how much more would you pay? If Netflix had everything through streaming that they have available through disc, I would pay a sum. I would pay a real. I would.
Yeah, I know.
So it's unlikely. So the question really is going to be, what are they able to offer? GameFly is fantastic if your turnover is good enough. If you are actually getting through games, if you're playing them, turning them around, and getting the games that you want sent to you. Otherwise, it becomes a no value almost immediately because you're paying money for like something you're either holding on to, which you may as well have just purchased the game, or you're not getting what you want or something like that. So with theirs, if they live up to even a portion of what we imagine they're going to try to deliver, I don't know. I don't know. I honestly can't imagine what it would be.
I can't figure it out either. And
I would hate to guess. What are we talking, like $10 a month?
I'd like to see what their library is. I mean, they haven't. What did they say? Sony all of their first party titles.
Did they actually say
See,
that?
I don't even think they actually said that.
Even if it was just all their first party titles, that would be good. But I don't. I don't know. They really need to be making deals with, Square,
Yeah.
EA, I guess. They need to be making deals with other people.
Square's
for,
your first
for
one.
distribution.
Konami would be another one.
Maybe not EA. I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking a little bit too broad. But you understand. They
Yeah.
need to really look back at that old library and imagine.
And,
yes, Konami.
Where were our top sellers for our
Capcom.
or what were where were our top sellers in our generation?
Right.
In each generation that we had.
And what's going to add the most value to this service? So, I don't know. I have no idea what I would pay. I like subscription services. It's an easy way to nickel and dime yourself to death, or $15 yourself to death if you just get too many of them. But some value here.
It is, yeah, and like I said, if this works for them, and I really hope it does, and I hope it opens the door to other people initiating this.
You want to look far enough ahead in the future. This is how it's going to work.
I know.
With everyone.
Yeah. I just want to happen within my lifetime.
Yeah.
Within my lifetime, and of course, and what was the requirement that it's what was it, 5 megabytes per second?
For PS Now?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
That was like the requirement that it needed to
Really,
be.
really, they wanted 5 megs down.
Yeah.
Okay.
To use this thing, you needed it. In other words, they weren't hiding behind. They weren't going to hide behind that and say, "Hey, look, our system works." Oh, you really need good internet to do this with. They were upfront about it and said, "No, you got to have this in order for it to work this way."
I mean, 5 is certainly okay, and there's a lot of. I mean, depending on where you are in America, and America is a very strange place. North America, I should say, is a very strange place where broadband access and performance is concerned. 5 is absolutely doable in a lot of places, but there are a ton of people that are, nope, that's not going to do them any good.
Yeah, well, and then
They will never be able to participate
and
there.
then the guys with caps.
The guys with caps.
Oh, jeez.
Man, caps give me the cold shivers.
Ooh.
The thought of it,
I
like
know.
it's bad. Like it's like, I don't know. Caps are like slightly less terrifying than spiders.
It feels like a virus that is it's kind of like the zombie outbreak. It's
Yes.
sort of slowly started elsewhere,
No, it's absolutely terrifying.
and every now and again you hear about somebody else getting picked up, and
Right.
it's like, oh God, it's getting
or like
closer.
the plague or something.
Feels like
you
it's
know?
closing in around you,
Yeah.
and that it's only a matter of time before you have to deal with it. Plorch in the chat room says PS Now will be a huge hit. Many people are getting more and more used to subscribing to services to get the content they consume. Netflix, Spotify, Amazon Prime. My guess on PS Now pricing is $14.99 with a discount for PS Plus subscribers. And
I think we should write that guess down because I think it's a good one.
I think it is.
And mostly because it dials in right along with just about everything else.
Yeah.
So.
Well, anyway, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we've got an interview that we did with Barking Mouse Studios. That is Jim Fleming and Danielle Swank. It's the game that they've released. It's called Lost Toys. It came out this week. It is on iOS, and it is a puzzle game. And we'll have the interview with them right after this in-game chat. We'll be right back. This is Prelude from Final Fantasy IX. And welcome back to In-Game Chat. Right now with us, we are talking with Danielle Swank and Jim Fleming. They're both from Barking Mouse Studios. They have a game on iOS right now. It is only on iOS, not yet on Android and other devices, just on like the iPad right now. And that game is called Lost Toys. Danielle and Jim, welcome to the show.
Thanks. Welcome, Scott.
Well, I really appreciate you guys doing this interview. I'll start with the beginning, which is for me and my come to know what Lost Toys is, and then how I met you guys was the indie booth at PAX in Seattle. Was how I first met you guys. I was just it's a tiny. I mean, the indie section was rather big, and then there's the indie. What was it called? The indie mini booth.
Yeah, and it was tiny. We were all packed in like sardines.
It was so tiny, so cramped. I mean, I ran into some great games in that section, though. The Speedrunner guys, and then Hot Tin Roof, and there was a couple others around in that area. And as I was trying to walk through the other side, I saw the iPad set up, and I think two people were playing on whatever. And it was just a puzzle thing. I mean, look, I say my first love. Yeah, it is really. My first love of gaming are puzzle games. A big Myst fan and that sort of thing. So how long has Lost Toys been in development? How long have you guys been working on it?
Since about last October.
And is it from the two of you, or did you have the idea and say, hey, let's make this? Or Danielle, did you have it? I mean, where did it come from?
So I guess we decided that we wanted to make a game back in August last year. And then we played around with a bunch of ideas for a while. And eventually we settled on a combination of creepy toys. And then Danielle came up with the mechanic after a trip to the Exploratorium.
But, I mean, really, we do everything together. There isn't things that you can separate out Jim did versus I did, hardly. So we came up with a theme. We were driving around and we're like, okay, what are we going to do? We know we want to make some sort of game, but what kind of game? Mm-hmm. And then, because we always have our best ideas in the car while driving. And we had come back from a trip down south, and we had just pulled into the parking lot, and Jim's like, creepy toys! He just shouts it out. And I'm like, oh my God, that's it. And like the game kind of sprang into, I think, both of our heads at the same time, fully formed.
Mm-hmm.
So where down south, you mean where?
Just down the Bay Peninsula. We're based out of San Francisco.
Okay, you meant down south as far as California is concerned.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
Gotcha. Because we're in the South. We're in Alabama.
Oh, we're in Alabama. Jim is from Georgia. He grew up around Marietta, and then I spent years of my life, actually decades, in Tennessee.
Oh, Montgomery is where we broadcast the show from.
Oh, that's a really nice. Yeah, I really like Montgomery.
You've been there?
Yeah, I've been all through the South. I used to be a sales representative for a pharmaceutical packaging company.
Yeah, well, then you probably did go around the...
Yeah, I did. I went to every single small, tiny independent pharmacy.
How did you go from there to here, making a puzzle game?
Well, I mean, really, how long do we have? Jim's story is a lot more straightforward, but mine dips and weaves and bobs and, takes a couple sucker punches. So I was working for the pharmaceutical packaging company, and I hated the job. It was miserable. Actually, my entire life is about miserable jobs. So I hated it. But I lived in Tennessee, and Tennessee is beautiful, but there's not... Where I was in Tennessee, there are not a lot of jobs. So I sat down and I had to figure out what I could do that wasn't what I was currently doing, but, wouldn't cost any money to start up. And so I hit on web development. I'm going to make websites for people. And I found out that I loved it. I loved designing things. I loved the coding part of the website. It really was a fit for me. So I taught myself web development and I started making websites.
And then, how did you get into game design?
Well, I met Jim when I was working for another advertising agency making
Ads.
Yeah. And it was all web-based. So we were doing web ads, and Jim and I really hit it off. He's incredibly talented. He's the most talented engineer that I've ever met.
She's leaving out the part where she hired me as my first job out of college.
Yeah, I'm gonna get to your past here in a bit.
and he worked there. He worked there for a while, and he quit on me.
He didn't talk to you about it. He just up and quit.
Yeah, he just up and quit. I mean, I knew he was gonna.
I gave the 2 weeks notice.
Yeah, he gave more than 2 weeks, and I knew he was gonna quit because he's incredibly talented. But I had so much enjoyed working with him that he told me he was quitting to do his own startup, and I'm like, oh, I'll help on that. And so I barged my way into his startup, and ever since then we've been going back and forth and working on various projects together. This is about the third project, maybe the fourth project. Yeah.
There's a couple of in-between ones.
Mm-hmm.
And we had made kind of a couple small, tiny weekend games for fun. And so this time around, when we were talking about what we were going to do for our next project, we're like, bro, make a game. And that's what we did. We had zero background. I didn't even know what a game designer was, or that was even a thing. Yeah.
You didn't know how you were going to be involved. You just wanted to be involved.
Yeah. So we jumped in, and that's kind of the story. We always do that. We just sure.
Well, and now you've got a result of that jumping in. Jim, where did you start out from? Obviously, you were in the ad agency thing, making ads, I guess.
Right. So I went to college for a couple years and really didn't like the programs, and I don't know, I didn't see the benefit of it at that particular location. So I jumped to the advertising agency, and it was a terrible job, but it was all right, and it was a stable job and everything. But...
I just want to say I loved my job there, and I really liked working there. So anybody who from there is listening, it was really I love you all.
We had different positions, though, and so my particular part of it kind of sucked. And, it was just, I wanted to start my own company, and it was a means to that end. And
it turns out we just really like making stuff. It's really fun.
You just love making stuff. Well, I mean, that's good. That's good for us, considering, how much I enjoy Lost Toys. Although, I don't necessarily know that it's going to... that your style is going to continue to stay that way. I don't know. I'm interested to see what happens next, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But Lost Toys, the design of it, or the conception of it, was that you knew from the start you wanted to make a puzzle game, or?
They are my favorite kinds of games. I play a lot of puzzle games. I love puzzle games.
Yeah.
Really, I made the game that I wanted to play. And I mean, I think that's the great thing about being an indie. And I think that's probably the thing that was missing with the rest of our projects.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, they were not bad projects, but they weren't necessarily things that we needed or loved. And I love this game.
Mm-hmm.
And I've loved making it, and I've loved playing it. I play it all the time, and
By now you know the solutions, right? So
We did up until a few months before we released, where we figured out how to randomize all the rotations.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yes.
So every time you replay a level, it's completely random.
You really?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Which we were super excited about because it hugely increased the replayability.
That's that gives me a headache. Because like some of the puzzles in there are tough as it is, and you only get a certain amount of moves to do them in, and some of them seem like, well, there's only the one way that you can put this back together, but
Yeah.
you've found a way that it could randomize
Mm-hmm.
the solutions. Does that mean it also randomizes the setup as far as how the toy is
Yeah.
broken down?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so you won't always. So your start position will always be different.
Correct.
Okay, now I kind of understand it. And for those who don't know what this is and don't know what we're talking about, Lost Toys gives you, I don't know how many puzzles, how many toys are in the whole thing.
There's 32 with a bonus level that's really hard. So yeah, there's 33 altogether. They're split up into 4 chapters.
Yeah.
So the chapter 1 has like about 6 puzzles, and then chapter 2 has 8, chapter 3 has 8, and then chapter 4 has 10.
Yeah, and they're all puzzles that have been they're all like I said, Rubik's Cube. They're all I don't know what do you call them? They're jumbled.
Somebody used
Yeah.
the word. It's a sequential puzzle.
Right. So you have to make the right moves in the right order to unscramble them.
One of the more interesting parts of this is that there's no timer. There's a certain amount of moves that you have to complete it in, but there's no urge, there's no rush, there's no pressure
Mm-hmm.
to
Or judgment. So like we don't, if you hit the hint button because you need that first move, that's totally cool.
It's kind of a goal of mine not to use the hint button and get through there, but I tell you, that first move can be tricky on some of those 4-move puzzles. At least on the 4, I haven't gotten further. Are there 5 and 6?
There are the really hard bonus level is 9 moves.
My God! Yeah, but one of the fun aspects, or one of the most unique aspects about that is, as I said, was the fact that the game doesn't have any pressure on you, and you don't have a timer for it. What was the reason behind going that route and not having those elements in a puzzle game, I guess?
We wanted something really relaxing and that kind of fit the casual play model. Like I wanted something that I could pick up on my iPad, play for a few minutes, put it down, and come back and start over. Like it was meant to be very transient.
And I mean, like I said, I love puzzle games. I play a ton of them. I think because of my engineering background, I like binary results. I like solved or not solved. And I get very, very frustrated with games that give me percentages. So where I only get like 95%. I think it's actually a big failing, especially because not everybody has that ability to do those puzzles in the same time frame. I have a partial foot amputation, so I think a lot about how people move through space and how people with different abilities can move through space. And I think, a lot of puzzle games are tuned to people with, I guess, normal abilities, non-different abilities. And I wanted to be as inclusive as I could be.
There's no scoring system. There's no ranking system. There are, as far as I can tell, there's no leaderboards. Not that I don't even know how you could include those.
Right.
Other than throw in things like a timer or stuff like that. And that's not something you wanted to do. Putting pressure I don't mind putting. Look, game mechanics work for whatever they work for different things, and that's fine. If somebody wants to make a puzzle game that does that ranks you and judges you and tests your skill and times you on these things, that's fine. I'm more inclined not to give your puzzle the attention that it needs because I don't like that kind of pressure in that environment. Same reason I hate underwater levels that give me a certain amount of air. Can't stand that. I don't really like pressure in my games, I guess.
Yeah.
Is really what I'm saying. Even though you get that from almost every game in some varied form. Obviously a health meter is pressure if you're losing health and not able to do the fighting or whatever it is needed to continue on, but I don't know. I don't like pressure with my puzzles, put it that way.
Yeah.
I'm okay with all other aspects, I suppose, but don't rush me when I'm trying to think.
Yeah, no, we're on the same page with you.
Yeah. I mean, imagine Sudoku with like a 5-minute timer.
Oh God. That's the best thing about like a crossword puzzle in a newspaper is that you sit down on like Sunday morning with a cup of coffee and you just do the crossword puzzle and maybe you solve it, but most of the times you don't, at least if you're me. You know, and it's relaxing. It's a way to unwind. And that's that's what I wanted with the game I made.
Yeah, well, your atmosphere nailed it as far as relaxing. It's it's black and white. Not black and white. It's, it is color, but there's a very gray overtone to it until you solve the puzzle of the toy, and then it kind of gets its life back. Sort of broken, and then it's put back together, and it works again. But the mood of that is very somber, relaxing, zen-ish, and the music helps with that. And I know it isn't music that you guys composed, but how did you come across the music that you used?
I spent maybe forever, like just because we kind of knew what we wanted. We wanted something classical. We wanted something beautiful and lovely and calming. But we're also a tiny indie studio working on our first game.
Just two people in this? Is it just the two of you?
Yeah, and Jim still has his day job. So
really small studio, almost zero budget, and yeah, we just got really lucky. And
yeah, I came across on Free Music Archive Peter Rudenko and his music, and I was just blown away. As soon as I heard it, I knew it was exactly what I wanted. And it also turns out that Peter is a great guy. Like, he's super generous. He licensed his music under Creative Commons Attribution Commercial, which is, I'm so, like, I can't even express my incredible gratefulness to him. We've actually been emailing him back and forth. And yeah, he's a super, super duper nice guy. And that's how we got the music in the game. Yeah,
you heard some of that music in the beginning of, before we started this interview. You'll hear another piece of, both tracks from the game. You'll hear another piece of that when we close the interview later. But, so the two of you, independent studio, making your own game. How did you come up with the money to make it? How did you come up with the time?
We switch back and forth.
So we have a kind of odd system. On every project that we work on, we alternate about every year to 2 years. One person works and the other works on the side project, whatever that is. And then the other person keeps their day job and then works on the side project in the evenings. And so we just kind of flip-flop. Our
goal with any project, and I think that we'll make it with this one, is to have enough money to work on the next project together without either of us having to have a day job. And
how's the reception been so far?
It's been great. I mean, we're so grateful to everybody. We got a feature by Apple. So we're currently right on their main page as a best new game. And then they also gave us a mini banner on the games page.
That's not something you paid for. That's not something you said, hey, I'd like to pay you guys money to feature me on the front page or anything?
No, they just like our game too. I mean, I'm overwhelmed by the response. Like, I can't believe that there's so many people out there that like our weird little game as much as we do.
I don't know what it says about me admitting this, but I was nervous about it. I feel like, as a puzzle lover, I'm in the minority. I don't know why. Maybe it's because it's a lack of it. Although I should say, in the past couple of weeks, I've discovered more and more, like The Room on iOS, and there's another one, Device 6,
Yeah.
that I really want to try out. I noticed that it got a lot of award nominations for GDC, and I kind of want to try that out now. I hear it's a puzzle type thing, and I'd like to check that out. So
it's a phenomenal game, or story, I guess, might be a better way to put it.
I know nothing about it other than the name, and that it would probably be something that I would enjoy. So that's all I know so far. But yeah, I was worried about it because I thought, man, this is great, but I just don't know where the audience is for this among the people that I know, who are going to enjoy this. Put this in front of them, and because it lacks those common denominators of games, which is the pressure aspects, the timer, the health, the stat, the whatever to kind of score you. I wasn't sure how well it was going to be received as far as a game, but I'm glad to hear that it's being received well. Spent some time with it last night. It's one of those things where I keep my iPad by the bed, and I sit in bed and I relax. I either read a book or I can play your game, and I really enjoy that. I did that with The Room whenever I had it. It was like, this is great. It was something I looked forward to every night, was getting back into that and getting the brain going again and figuring these things out. What's next for you two?
We have a couple things.
You sound like two people who have a lot of ideas in your head for what you want to do, and it's just more a point of figuring out which one of those ideas to go with.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think the next game is going to be something in the same vein. We're thinking about doing, and I don't know if we're going to do this. So, because yeah, you're right, we have a billion ideas, and who knows. One of the ideas that we've been playing around with is something where the puzzles themselves connect and make something bigger, because the current game, the puzzles are discrete and they don't really connect to each other as much. And it'd be great if you could have some sort of, they form some sort of big Rube Goldberg machine at the end.
I like that idea. My first thought was Transformers for a minute, but I like that idea.
That would also be cool.
Yeah. We don't know how to do that yet. So, I mean,
figure that out, because that's a good idea. I like that.
Okay.
I like that a lot. Yeah, that's a good one. Is there any plan for Lost Toys to show up anywhere else?
It was created using Unity, and so we can port it pretty much to any platform. It just comes down to purchasing devices to port them to.
Yeah, and time and effort. Since it was our first game and we're not sure how the reception would be, it was easiest and simplest for us to release on iOS first. But with the reception that we're getting, I think that it has other ports in its future.
How much did it cost to make Lost Toys? Do you have a ballpark type figure?
Well, I mean, there's so many costs as an indie studio. Do I count my time? If that's the case, I don't even want to think about it. My out-of-pocket expenses. Do I count just the stuff that happened? Just the licenses for the software, because that's fairly inexpensive.
Yeah, the festivals were probably the biggest expense because they involve traveling and hotel and stuff like that.
Yeah, those are my biggest expenses doing this is E3 and the PAX stuff. It's why I only can do about 2 a year, and even that is kind of pushing it. So
yeah, we did those as inexpensively as we could. We used Airbnb. For PAX, and even Airbnb for the Tokyo Game Show, which we ended up going to.
Wow, that's a thing.
That was a thing. I'm not sure I would recommend Airbnb.
Won an award out there, I believe, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. That part was great. The Tokyo show was
really awesome.
It was yeah, one of those things warmed my heart to see it when you posted it on Facebook and elsewhere, to think that, oh man, that's wonderful, because what it reiterated to me that it calmed my nerves on the fear that I was having.
Yeah.
Of seeing this game and being like, oh gosh, I don't know how they're going to take this, because it is not
It's not mainstream.
I know the aspects of the word game don't seem to fit into it, other than solution to a puzzle. And I thought, God, how is this going to be taken? And then to see you guys get award after award after award, and I thought, wonderful, they get it. These people get it. So it gave me hope for what it was going to be for when you guys release this. And I'm so glad to hear that the reception has been doing well and that it's been going great for you. So that's wonderful to hear, and I'm so very happy for the two of you. I really, really am, to see you guys at the Indie Mini booth, and it was the two of you off into this. I mean, already that thing was so small, and you guys were tucked away behind like somebody else's demo, and while your iPads were there. And I only played just a little of the game before I was like, no, I'm good, man. I know what this is, and I'm good. I played it for a little bit, and then it was like, I need to go to the next thing, but I already know what this is. It had already struck that chord, and it didn't take much to do that with. Just the tone, the atmosphere, and what was taking place was the connection that I made with it, and fell in love with it. So I'm really, really happy for you guys. Before you go, though, I want to ask you both. I mean, Jim, we know that Danielle's really into the puzzle things, but what about you? What was the last game that you played that wasn't yours?
Probably The Room 2.
Oh, no, wonderful.
Oh, Max Payne?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah.
Which one? Max Payne 3? Or just the first one?
I think she means Alan Wake.
I do, because of that thing.
We picked it up at GameStop a few weeks ago, and because I had thought it was just a PlayStation game, and so because I only have an Xbox, and so I'd never played it. But then when I saw it was an Xbox title, I was really excited to play it. Yeah,
it was an Xbox exclusive, and then came to PC.
Right, right. Yeah, I don't know. The wires got crossed somehow, and I totally thought it was PlayStation exclusive.
Oh, good. Glad you enjoyed that one. Danielle, what's the last game you played that obviously wasn't yours?
Candy Crush. Dude, I love that game.
What's the other last game you played?
I don't know. If you haven't played it, I highly recommend you giving it a try. But you're right about The Room 2. That's what I've been playing a lot of. Actually, if you... Like, my favorite game ever is Viva Pinata 2.
Not bad. I have that. I don't know if I have... Do I have 2 or the first one? I don't know. I think I've got the first one, and I don't know if I got 2.
The first one's pretty good. The 2 just gives you a couple extra... You can make Christmas scenes. It's awesome.
Nice.
I don't know. I'm that kind of... I guess that pulls into... that's a no-pressure game.
You're right, it isn't. I mean, there are some pressures. I remember when, like, trying to maneuver your whatever through the maze to get to your mate.
Yeah.
Or something. I can't remember what that was. There was a game aspect to that.
Yeah.
There's a game aspect to, like, when it gets dark and then you get invaded by the what were they called? The Sours?
Miatas, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. I can't remember. God, I really liked that game, though. I remember, God, I put in a ton of time with that game. And it was the weirdest thing to, like, recommend to somebody.
I know. Don't you feel, like, super embarrassed to do that? Because you're like...
I don't necessarily feel embarrassed by it. I just feel like there's no way I can convey to you with this box and this name and my description to really... convey the addiction that you're going to enjoy when you play this. And I really, if you remember, and I know we're completely off topic, if you remember, our show itself had a ton of fun with, we must have played that commercial over and over again on the show. The one with, it was the horse.
Yeah.
And he's a piñata, and there was like all these kids, it was live action. And he's like, hey, if you let me go, I'll grant you one wish. For you, an amicable divorce. And for you, a gun with one bullet. For you, pants. I don't know. It was all sorts of different things. But, God, it was so great. Anyway, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Congratulations so much on the game.
Thank you.
It is wonderful to see you guys get success out of this. And I wish you so much more. And with the idea, at least the one you told me, and I'm sure there's some other great ones in those heads of yours, you guys are going to have continued success. So congratulations, and again, thank you.
Thank you so much, Scott.
Thank you.
And that was Danielle Swank and Jim Fleming from Barking Mouse Studios. Their game Lost Toys is out on iOS right now. You can go to the App Store and purchase it for, I believe, just the iPad. I don't know if it's for the iPhone. I think it's just on the iPad. And puzzle game with no pressure, and it's a lot of fun. I want to thank Danielle and Jim for being on the show. We'll be right back with more in-game chat in just a moment.
You could break me open and take my candy, but wouldn't you like something better? I'll tell you a secret. I'm a magical piñata, and if you get me down from here, I'll grant you all your wishes. For you, an X-ray machine. For you, crab cakes. How about sunscreen, pants that fit? Trevor, karate lessons? A dill pickle. For you, aerosol cheese. Transistor radio. For you, an uncomfortable silence. How about an extra thumb? For you, a hairless cat. Beard tonic. Premium cable. A scuba tank. 24-hour surveillance. Calamine lotion. A rubber ducky. Vigilante justice. A keyboard guitar. A swingin' bachelor pad. Comfortable walking shoes. A pet cobra. A road map. Cornrows. A pocket kerchief. The skulls of the vanquished. Cheerleaders. Business cards. Free oil changes for life. To crush your enemies, to see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentations of their women. A heated pool. An amicable divorce. Custody of the kids. A sedan de ville. Bionic feet. Microphone skills. Maid service. For you, a restraining order. The electoral vote. The heavyweight title. Bunny slippers. A good attorney. A short-sleeved tuxedo. For you, an electronic turkey baster. A pistol and 1 bullet. For you, how about a baked potato? Just get me down and it's all yours. Come on. Just so we're clear, kids, I'm not magical.
Giddy up! Yeah! Yeah! That was acting, children! Bravo for me!
Piñatas have a better place to go. You can custom build your very own piñata world and fill it with all the things piñatas love. Don't beat 'em, join 'em. Rated E for everyone.
And welcome back to In-Game Chat. We opened a show with that once, I think.
We did. Yep.
God, we had a lot of fun with that. Anyway, the interview you heard, that was Barking Mouse Studios, Danielle Swank and Jim Fleming. Their game is called Lost Toys. It is on iOS right now. You can pick it up. Just released this week. And the music, if you go to their site, just put Lost Toys game into the into Google, and they've got a link there where you can go. It is Creative Commons for the music, so you can actually download it without having to pay anything, that sort of thing. So, but yeah, it's great music, great game. Be sure to check it out. So, welcome back to the show. We got this final segment to go into, and I wanted to talk about. Look, what's today? What is today? The 11th. It was around a month ago that we had my 360 in here streaming the VGX that they were doing on well, not really Spike or whatever, but anyway, it was the VGX. We had them on the TV there, and we're watching that. The Video Game Awards basically is what it was. And we came back the next week and said, look, for everybody complaining about it, and that's fine, you can, because they are bad. There are some awards out there that you really should pay more attention to. You shouldn't look at these as your award show. You should look at some of these other guys doing it because they're doing it right. The BAFTAs do it right. That was one of the ones that I mentioned. And the GDC Awards is one that I mentioned as well. And we just got the nominations for the GDC Awards for this year. It is the Game Developers Choice Awards. And what we have, I'm just going to go over some of the nominations. Game of the Year nominees are Grand Theft Auto 5, Tomb Raider, Super Mario 3D World, Last of Us, and Gone Home.
That's a really balanced meal.
There is no BioShock Infinite in that.
No, that's
list.
fine. There was no BioShock Infinite on a lot of lists.
Yeah, I'm not saying it should be there. I'm just saying that it's not the, although it does have a bunch of high-profile titles. It's not
they're high
big
profile.
hitters of the year type
No,
thing.
but there's meats, dairies, grains, fruits, and vegetables on that dish. Everything, no two things in my mind necessarily compete directly with each other categorically on that list, if that makes any sense at all.
Yeah. Innovation Award goes to Papers, Please, Tearaway, The Stanley Parable, Gone Home, and Device 6. Device 6 is an iOS game. Again, that is a puzzle game that apparently I need to try out. It actually gets brought up a lot in these awards, and that's why I took a look at it to see what it's about. Best Debut, and this goes to the studios who do games. Blue Manchu, who did Card Hunter. The Fulbright Company, who did Gone Home. Galactic Cafe for the Stanley Parable, Squad, who did Kerbal Space Program, and Undead Labs for State of Decay.
Okay.
Undead, we talked about this, just up their contract with Microsoft.
They did multi-year, multi-title contract renewal with or exclusivity renewal with Microsoft. So that's actually very, very good for them. Obviously, we could hope forever that they would branch out and do other things, but Microsoft took a chance on some unproven stuff. The game, outwardly jank, inwardly beautiful. So I have, as long as more of it is getting done, as long as they are looking to develop in new ways, then that's super fantastic. I like what they did.
I like Plorch's comment there. James's gaming food pyramid.
Yeah, that's the way it looks. That's what it looks like to me. It looks, and I don't mean to. I'm not trying to derail it or say that it's horrible because I don't really care anyway. But it looks like someone trying to create a balanced list, going out of their way to say, well, these aren't necessarily the top 5 best things, but don't they all coexist beautifully in the same list together? So.
Best Design. The nominees for Best Design are Grand Theft Auto 5, The Last of Us, Legend of Zelda: Link Between Worlds, Super Mario 3D World, and Tomb Raider. Get the Best Design nominations. Best Handheld Mobile Game, Device 6, Fire Emblem Awakening, Link Between Worlds, Ridiculous Fishing, and Tearaway. For those, again, that's another reason I looked up Device 6. I was like, "What is this? I don't want to miss out on something like I missed out on The Room, which was just I really enjoy that." But so that's why I looked it up. Best Visual Art, BioShock Infinite. The next one I agree with, Devil May Cry. That again, when I talk about that, I said that what, this is the only reason I continued to play that game was because I wanted to see what the next level was going to look like. How they were going to take a world and twist it into a level, because it's all taking place in our world, and then it gets shifted into the netherworld, I suppose, or something like that when the demons cross over, and it takes on a completely new look and design and feel. And they just did a fantastic job with the transformation of that stuff. It was wonderful. Last of Us on that one gets a nomination. Wrath of the White Witch, Ni no Kuni, I believe, is how you pronounce that. And then Tearaway gets another one.
Hey, can I get you to pause right there?
Yeah.
All right, so if that's best visual design, I suppose is what they're saying, what is best design? What is that? Is there any information about what that category actually means? Best environment design? Level design? But gameplay design? Design is about the most generic, meaningless term that you can throw at a video game. So I would kind of like to know what that means. I can find ways to make it make sense. I just didn't know if you had any information about what they were actually trying to say.
I guess you couldn't put overall design. That would make it even
right. That's the best game. Yeah. The best the game with the best overall design is the best game, right? Yes. So I don't know what best design actually means. I wish they had been a little more clear so that I knew what the criteria were, so I could say whether or not the inclusion of something like Grand Theft Auto or Tomb Raider is laughable.
Yeah, it doesn't say. I could probably check their site and see if there's anything there to see if they have descriptions of those. That was visual art. Best narrative, Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons. That's something I still need to play. Gone Home, Tomb Raider, Stanley Parable, and Last of Us get nominations for best narrative. Best audio, and I'm gonna look and see. Best audio, I don't think that means best soundtrack, but I'm not sure.
Like a best audio design.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Right.
Just says best audio. The nominees...
usually for music, they just say soundtrack, and from what I've seen.
Well, and that can be several different things. We've spoken on this subject before. GTA 5 has a mostly purchased.
Yeah, compilation of other...
Compilation soundtrack.
Music,
And that necessarily has to stand apart from score. Best original score, the same way it does in pictures. And then outside of that, there's best audio design as well. So I don't know necessarily what that means. Like if you're just thinking about audio design, and I mean, again, just in isolation, like the general audio design of a game, Battlefield games run away with that stuff all the time. They are magnificent. They are absolutely way, way away from anybody else. And you think it's just guns and explosions, but the fact that they managed to do something, I don't want to say meaningful, but they add just all the right texture to that stuff. They've always been very, very, very good at that, but their music is, passable.
Dennis pointed out in the chat room that, I praise Devil May Cry for its visuals. It is free on PS Plus right now, if you're a PS Plus member. Again, here it is, something subscription-based from Sony that gives you quite a good bit of value.
We're actually going to have to start pointing out now which platform we're talking about when we say PS Plus stuff, because we are now in the era of 3 different platforms. So when somebody says this is on PS Plus now, my first thought now is to rush home and get it on my PS4.
Right.
Which isn't the case. You have to be very careful about which things are. I mean, I understand it hasn't been released for PS4 yet. That doesn't stop me not listening.
Yeah. But best audio nominations: BioShock Infinite, Forza Motorsport 5, Grand Theft Auto 5, Saints Row 4, and Tearaway for best audio. The next category is best downloadable game: Brothers, Tale of Two Sons, Gone Home, Papers, Please, Resogun, good, and the Stanley Parable.
I think that's a stupid category.
Yeah.
I think it is an absolutely useless anachronism of a category. Best downloadable game could be any game I have played.
It could be, yeah.
In the past.
Guess what? I played
months.
Assassin's Creed 4. That was downloadable.
You're right. So as a category, I don't believe it makes any sense.
It doesn't.
It's a little bit of a nod to the fact that there's plastic disc lovers out there, but in reality, I think it is a kind of a useless sort of category.
Now, it's got honorable mentions for all of these, and the honorable mentions for downloadable game, which I guess means you get a mention, but you don't get a chance to win. Guacamelee is one. Mm-hmm. Gunpoint is an honorable mention.
I have actually been really sad at the exclusion of Gunpoint from an awful lot of lists. That was a fantastic little game. It wasn't. It wasn't trying to do an awful lot. It was smart. It was fast. It had fun puzzles. It was really neat. It was clever. I liked its particular retro style, and that seems to be perfectly okay with people to, build something like that around a retro style. I just feel like it's overshadowed because it wasn't trying to. It wasn't trying to elevate the medium. It was just trying to be really good at what it did, and it was a clever, pitch perfect little thing that didn't make you just think deep thoughts afterward and rush away to the internet to have an incredible life-altering discussion about all of the deep garbage that it was actually trying to say. It was just like a little game. And so it gets obviously overshadowed because of the mood. There's a mood out there now.
Last week after the show, I went ahead and edited the content and started the upload to YouTube with it, and decided to play a game that did not require me connecting to the internet. And it was one of those games that we sat down and said, hey, let's play this. It's a puzzle thing. You can be involved, make your decisions, or just see what it is. And we played a game called Trauma. Wow. If you want to get angry one night, play that.
Yeah.
Because it's trying to do what you just said.
Yeah.
It is such that way that it ends with Finn at the end. Or whatever.
Come on.
It does. It does. It does.
I can accept that if it's trying to be ironic, but I don't imagine.
I don't think it is,
because nobody really seems to be doing it with a whole lot of irony. I'm not saying that this is bad, but man, is there ever something in the air supply these days about doing this kind of stuff? And we don't even remotely have time for me to talk about that, but I don't mind it. I'm not saying that I mind it, but I'm about done with the conversation that games need to be elevated. Certain things, they want to be artistic and they want to have emotional discussions, right? They want to pose emotional questions or not weird, but they want to pose ethical questions. I'm certainly okay with that, but there is just the strangest trend that seems to be driving, the discussion, the whole zeitgeist towards that's what games ought to be doing. And it's crap. That's total crap. There are a lot of games out there that are just like really, really good at the thing they're doing. And I found Gunpoint to be exactly that. It had some really cute wry humor. It was really self-aware. It wasn't too long. The release itself was really super fantastic. It was dirt cheap. It is very replayable. I don't know. I really liked it, and it was merely a good game, which means that I don't know that that's why it hasn't rated, but I also think that it came out too long ago. It's one of those games that came out the better part of a year ago, so it gets forgotten a lot.
The other honorable mention, State of Decay,
which deserves a lot more than an honorable mention. Man, I mean, and again, I understand it. It's certainly hard to access some of their stuff. They could have done a better job with discovery and explanation, but under that crispy crust of like weirdness that people could be very uncomfortable with, it was the best version of that type of game that we've seen in ages. It was the best survival type game, in the action genre, period. Nothing else presses you like that. Nothing else is running out the clock on you like that. And nowhere else do you have such an understanding of the limits of your resources. Whatever.
Yeah. The other one, Towerfall, was an honorable mention for best downloadable game. Also, I like the fact that our chat room decided to start coming up with really stupid categories.
Best game that used a screen.
Yeah.
Best game requiring input.
Yes. And the other one, this is an odd one for an honorable mention, but for downloadable game, The Wolf Among Us.
I don't know. Special recognition, I think, is a good category for something like that, because it's like, yes, episode 1 of your serialized game came out, and it's super fantastic, and we all enjoyed it very much. But let's, it's kind of the argument people had against Rock, Paper, Shotgun's decision to put Kentucky Route Zero at the top of their list. It's like, but, there's only 2 of them out so far, so I don't know where your head's at on that. I think honorable mention is actually maybe a good thing to use there.
Yeah, the next category and the last category here is best technology. Again, these are...
What does that even mean?
I don't know. Well, here's the see if you can tell.
Is this about platforms or about games?
Yeah, see if you can tell from the nominations, and I'll also do the honorable mentions on this one. Best technology nominees are Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, Grand Theft Auto 5, Last of Us, Killzone Shadowfall, and Tearaway.
I have no idea what they're talking about. I really don't.
Use of extra equipment, like what was Assassin's Creed? They had you could use some tablet for some extra.
You could use like a tablet app to like do some goofy stuff. It had nothing to do. I mean, it's a very good little app. But yeah,
because I know Grand Theft Auto 5 has an app. What were the other ones after Grand Theft Auto 5?
Last of Us.
No, I can't think of any extra app after that.
No, I don't know that that's what they're talking about. I think they'd be more specific about external.
I'm just guessing here.
Yeah,
so
it makes no sense.
I mean, if I look at Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag and I think technology, about the only place I can look in that is the ocean,
which is pretty swank.
The way that they did that.
No, it's very, very good. They actually realized it in the right way.
If I look at Grand Theft Auto 5, I look at the multiple character switching and what goes on there. I know, whatever. You want to sour on that. I'm just saying that maybe that's
what they're looking for.
Last of Us, I can easily tell just for the fact of the way that thing looked.
No, I don't think that's enough. Just look at it. Don't you understand why it has the best technology? No, I actually.
Killzone Shadowfall I haven't played, but you.
Well, and again, that's why I feel it's a very strange category. Yeah. It's like we can argue about the gameplay, and I really wish you would play because I'd like to know what you think.
I need to.
I enjoyed it. I did not think it was a great game, but I thought it actually was a good game, and it was just messy pretty, man.
Yeah.
It was pretty. It was really, really, really nice. And,
Tearaway uses the Vita, the camera in the Vita.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
I understand that. But
honorable mentions for this are Battlefield 4, Dota 2, Forza 5, Tomb Raider, and Metro Last Light.
And clearly they had their own chat room coming up with weird categories.
Let me go back to some of the honorable mentions.
Because Metro seems to me like it would be in the same category based on the like Killzone would be. Both of them are just stupidly good-looking games.
Yeah.
Just stupidly good-looking.
Best audio honorable mentions were Animal Crossing New Leaf, Battlefield 4, Far Cry 3, Blood Dragon, specifically Blood Dragon,
Yeah.
got Best Audio or honorable mention. Gone Home and Metro Last Light for Best Audio, honorable mention. In the narrative, honorable mention was Attack of the Friday Monsters, A Tokyo Tale, BioShock Infinite, got an honorable mention for their narrative. The Cave, Wrath of the White Witch, Ni no Kuni, and Shadowrun Returns. For visual art, your honorable mentions, and I can't say that word for saving my life. Don't Starve gets a honorable mention for best visual art. Grand Theft Auto 5, Papers, Please. That's an interesting one.
Papers, Please?
Yeah.
The art was perfect.
Yeah. Puppeteer, Rise, Son of Rome, and The Wonderful 101. Over to best handheld mobile game that got an honorable mention: Animal Crossing New Leaf, 868 Hack, Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon, Plants vs. Zombies 2, Steam World Dig, and The Room 2. For design, your honorable mentions go to Dota 2, Pokemon X and Pokemon Y.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
Come.
It's an honorable mention. It didn't
Man,
make
drop
the nomination.
categories. Categories make no... They don't... Oh, my God, they make no sense. They just... The entire discussion becomes a wreck. Categories make no sense. Games are defying categories now. It's give it up. As much as Jimmies get rustled when RPS does a lot of what they do, the way they handle it is actually the way it should be handled right now. That's how it should be handled. They got together. They talk, like, I don't care who it is, whether it's your own editorial staff or whether it's, prestigious members of the whatever community that are picking these things, but you just get rid of the categories.
Here's our list of Ghost Bears. Just do list of games. The other best, what did I do? Design, Rogue Legacy, The Stanley Parable, SteamWorld Dig, and Towerfall. Going into honorable mentions for best debut, Facepalm Games, they did The Swapper. Frogmine Games, they did Badland. Grinding Gear Games, Path of Exile. Suspicious Developments, they did Gunpoint. And Warner Brothers Montreal for Batman Arkham Origins. Innovation Award, honorable mentions: Brothers, Tale of Two Sons, Candy Box, Kerbal Space Program, Last of Us, and Proteus. And Game of the Year got honorable mentions: Legend of Zelda,
That doesn't even make sense.
Link Between Worlds, Papers, Please, Stanley Parable, and Tearaway.
Categories, man. Got to get rid of them. I know it helps people think they understand what's going on, but they're completely pointless. Completely. If you want to do them by platform, maybe I'll even accept some stuff by genre, but that doesn't even make sense. Are you telling me that? I don't know. I think it's confusing because we absolutely live in a world where Papers, Please, for as little as it was and as much as it managed to do with what it had on offer, is probably a better video game than GTA.
Yeah.
For all of the hojillion dollars spent on GTA and all of the popular opinion that's behind GTA for whatever reason in the world it is. Papers, Please, this little, just a runt, something that could be easily dismissed and is brilliant. I think that's really hard for people to move toward understanding and appreciating.
Well, that's going to do it for us, folks. Thanks, everybody, for joining us in the chat room, as well as everybody listening on the stream and on the radio. Thanks, everybody who grabs us each week from iTunes or however you get our show for later use. We really appreciate it. Don't forget to join us on Twitter, Facebook, our forums at colonyofgamers.com. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you're on Steam, we've got a Steam group you can join up with over there and play games with us and other listeners. Also, it's odd, I give all this information out, and I never give away our site information, ingamechat.net. Head over there. You'll find links to all the different ways that you can find us and get information from us. It's great. Ingamechat.net. Thanks again. We will see you next week.